Hey guys, this is Tony with Dinner Geek Designs. Today I'm back with another video. Today I want to talk about the basics of how to do designing for print. As your graphic designer, you may be not exposed to print as often as some older designers were. It used to be the only thing you were designing for. Now we have web, UX, app design. There's so many more things we're designing for. So let's go through some basic tips of like what to do, what you should be doing, what some not to do's, just overall understanding the best thing for print. If you learned something, if you like this, like and subscribe, and let's just hop into it. The first thing I want to get into is understanding your stock. So for print, there's many different types of paper or material you could print on. Understanding how this is going to work and what print processing you're doing can drastically change how you're going to design. What I mean is, let's take if you're designing for a digital press and you're designing for a coated stock. Majority of what you're going to design is going to be fine. So let's say we're designing a QR code and we have 12-point font in it, etc., etc. We look at our file and our QR code is digital. It's an image. It's not a vector. Well, we're looking at it. We're looking at the quality, the size of the print, and we're going to say it's okay. That's something we can do. We can figure out if it's going to print okay still with even a web image. But let's say we're going to go to a foam core. They also need this for a event, perhaps. We take a look at it. We say, hey, is this going to even work for us? Well, you're going to scale that QR code up and it's going to blow up. Also, if you keep that font at 12 point, when you're doing on a flatbed, the smaller the font, the less it's going to print well. So understanding your stock, understanding your print process drastically changes how you're going to design and gives you a good understanding of what's doable and what's possible. This is why I recommend every designer that if you're working in print, or if you need to work in print for a customer, find a local printer. Talk to them about what print process are we doing, what is doable, what's not doable, what's their recommendations versus what you think is doable. At the end of the day, your printer, your local printer, will be your best buddy in your design career versus an online printer. An online printer will give you guidelines and give you recommendations, but most of the time, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, they might not be willing to back you up if you submit artwork and approve it right then and there. Yes, print shops will also do the same thing local, but they will usually work with you on a reprint. Next tip I want to talk about is understanding color and understanding when to use what color. When we're designing for print, we should always be designing in CMYK, but there are also times we need to use a Pantone and understanding which Pantone to use and when. The best example of this is, again, talk to your printer. Are we using digital, or are we using offset, or are we using something that actually use ink? For using process, we need to look at a different type of Pantone called a process Pantone or a bridge Pantone. If you look at a bridge Pantone book, it'll have the C. So say if we're talking about code, it'll say 413C or 413CP next to it. The process color is what it is expected to come out as the process mix on the printer. It's pretty close. It's kind of accurate. It's not 100% one-to-one though. But this gets you a starting point. But depending on the printer's color gamut, it may not be doable. It may be able to get only so close. Like I know some printers really struggle with red. Red's a really hard color to get right. I also know some that struggle with the orange spectrum or the yellow spectrum. But when do we use CMYK versus when do we use Pantone? That's mainly the question we're asking right now. 9 out of 10 times I would say use CMYK for majority of your print design. Where we're using Pantones when we need to be specific about colors, specifically brand colors, specifically logo colors, but that comes from your customer to you. If they don't have it, ask them. It's never a stupid question to ask about, hey, do you have specific colors we're trying to match to? My next tip is understand margins, bleed, and safe area as a whole when it comes to print design. Biggest thing I see from designers is that they are designing to the edge of the artwork or the edge of the trim box, not giving margin, or designing in Canva. And Canva really is social media first, print second. And they're not considering that they need to bring everything in a bit. This goes even further when we're talking about booklets. Booklets, you need to worry about your gutter. You can't go everything inside. You have to have a gutter as well. These are all things you just need to understand and take in consideration of when you're doing it. You might have to get closer into your artwork or push into your artwork. I've always had the mentality of more margin is better. The more room your artwork has to breathe, the actual more high quality product it will look. Also, understanding bleed and how to use bleed is a big thing. Bleed is used whenever you have artwork or graphics going to the edge of the finish size, and you need a little bit more, usually about an 1/8 inch or 3 millimeters, to have your artwork be cut properly. This will make sure when equipment shifts or print shifts that it gets cut exactly how it should be. Another thing I would like to talk about is understanding ink coverage and scoring. This is something that takes a little bit getting used to and understanding how it's going to work. It goes into a little bit of understanding grain or understanding stock properties. So say if we have black is a good example, because black doesn't really like to get scored that well. It's a very dense ink or toner. It cracks a lot easier than, say, yellow or magenta. Cyan also does, but once you get the mix in there, it depends on how thick it is. So let's say you have a trifold brochure and you have a lot of black going over where the folds are going to be. That's not the end of the world. It's just have to understanding that, when the bead is made, when we do the scores, there may be cracking. It may not show up right away, but eventually over time that will crack a lot more than just normal white, or white will show less because it's the stock of the paper. This is something that takes some getting used to. It's really hard to see until you see it. This also goes down to package design. Package design is a whole nother can of worms, but it's same concept. When you're scoring on a piece of cardboard, let's say, if you've ever seen a piece of cardboard, it's got the flutes in the middle, which are the little squigglies in the middle, and then 2 pieces of cardboard. Those flutes like to score one way versus the other. If you go with the flutes, you're going to have a nicer score. If you go against them and you don't have the right setting, the right pressure, you're going to have to crack more. There are ways of going against this. You can do the other side to do that. You could score with a knife. That doesn't look the best, but it also looks pretty good as well. I've done both ways before. I hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of this. Let me know what is some tips you'd like to give designers, or some topics you'd like to talk about that starting out designers in print should learn. Or if you're a starting out designer, what things are you struggling with print design? Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.